Welcome to Astrology Unplugged. I'm Rick DiClemente. It's nice to have you joining us from YouTube or if you're doing it live or whatever. If you want to join us any Thursday nights, just go to Astrology Unplugged. Type in Astrology Unplugged into Google and it'll give you the link. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about a lot of different things. If you've not been with us before, this is our 185th episode, and we talk a lot of astrology, nothing specific, a lot of current events. Then we have different weird guests on, and they talk about their weirdness. Okay, speaking of which, I will be a weird guest on Monday. My friend Jen Belt is doing a show on weird things that she does on Monday at 4 o'clock on Facebook Live. I will be your interviewee talking about what Pluto has done to and with us the last 12 years or so. A couple of things to get started with. Nice to see you all. We're going to be looking at some charts. Send my best to Stephen. I wanted to talk about a couple of things because I hear things in the ethers, and when you sit in an astrologer's seat, you sit in a rather peculiar seat because people can't help it. But a lot of people come to me and they want me to tell them the future is going to be okay. Or they tell me they want good fortune. Well, fortunately, astrology is becoming less and less about fortune and good luck. And people are starting to own it. And it's no coincidence that astrology is changing along with the winds that Mr. Carl Jung put in motion. So we're starting to get more aware of our light side and our dark side especially, and things have really been changing. The astrologers in the last 20 years are completely different gender group than they were in the 70s when I got into it. One of the things I want to talk to you about is this. When you're not an astrologer, it's very understandable how you're looking up in the sky and you feel something and you're worried that it's going to come get you. I mean, it's really a common experience. But 99% of the time it's not true. The other percent of the time is if a planet wants to get you, it's going to get you and you can't go anywhere, do anything about it because it gets you from inside. Yeah. Anyhow. I want to tell you about a story. I'm working on a book on this piece. I'm working on a book on how to go down the road and not have a Mack truck come into your lane heading right at you. Okay? And I'm being very serious. This is really, really true. And all the basic tenets of it are directly out of A Course in Miracles. Okay, I have a friend. I'm not going to mention names. I have a girlfriend, female friend, for a long, long time. And I visit her and I enjoy seeing her. And I don't particularly care for the guy she's married to. Let's put it mildly. Nor how he treats her. Whatever. Anyhow, the old me would be driving to see her. And I would be going, I got to run into him. And what did he say last time? And all son of a gun. The way he treats you. And what I'm saying to the universe is, I don't want to see him. And the key to this is the emotion. When emotion's packed behind it, you're sending the needle up. That the universe is going to find a way that you won't go have to see him, including a Mack truck in your lane. This is how it happens. I've got a lot of evidence. So now, because the universe is trying to help you out, I got to get you somehow you don't see him. Or my eyes go blind. This is how it works. This is how it works. So, when I go now, I go, I'm going to see my friend, and he's going to be there. That's okay. I'm going to see her, and it's going to be okay, and he's going to be there, and I don't like it, but it ain't that big of a deal, and I'm going to see her, it's okay. And when I go, I don't worry about a thing, and all the Mack trucks go right by me. That's exactly how it works. That's the prime directive. That's how it works. So watch yourself if you get into one of these, okay? I'm tired of seeing that guy on TV. I can't stand to see that guy. You'll go blind. Your brain is neutral. Your brain says he's really upset about this. He really doesn't want to see this guy or those people on TV anymore. What can we do? Well, we can just make his eyes stop working. You take a look when people go deaf. What it was just before they said they didn't want to hear anymore. When they go blind, they don't want to see it anymore. Ask them about what happened just before. This is always the case. We just don't know it. Okay, that's a little tidbit. Part 2. All right. I've been talking and warning people a lot recently, and I don't like warning people because I have to warn them, and I don't want to warn them, but I got to warn them. Because when I warn them, they don't know what category to put it in. So they naturally get defensive and they naturally get fearful and they start ducking. And that's not how you deal with planets. But I do want them to know they're walking into a storm. So when I wrote, in June, I wrote an article about the coming August 10th to August 16th with a special star on the 15th. Next week, I'm going to show you why. All right. This does not mean something bad is going to happen to you, and it can be something really good, but it does mean the overall collective's going to get really intense, and I don't have to tell you now, you can feel it now. People are in each other's throats. They are, and it's understandable when you see. So let's start off by looking at Trump's chart, because it centers around him in a lot of ways. And remember, Mr. Trump's chart represents the whole country because he's the center, the unwilling centerpiece of it. Okay, now, here's what I'm trying to explain to you. In Trump's chart, there are a lot of things. I could go on for several hours, but the secret to Trump's chart is right here. It's the Venus, Saturn, and Cancer. It's at the middle of the whole chart. It's the least thing that you would notice. It's the least thing you would talk about, but it's the problem of the chart because it's the old feel sorry for me center. Nobody listens to me. Why come nobody likes me? I got to do all these things. And what happens when you have a Venus, Saturn, and Cancer compounded with Mars and Leo is Cancer, one of the dark sides of Cancer is, if you don't like me, well, I'll show you. If I'm not going to get what I think I needed to get, I'll show you. I'll make sure you don't get what you get. It's got a real bad side to it. You got to watch it. He could overcome this. He had many opportunities in his life, but he hasn't overcome it, whatever. Okay, but the point is, this is his weak spot. It's all about not letting people in, Venus, Saturn, and Cancer, not trusting people, not letting them in, making excuses of why I'm unloved, unlovable. So he takes the Mars and Leo, which doesn't stop for anybody, and he gets back at you. Anything you did, I'll get you back, I'll get you back. It's not a revengeful thing like Scorpio. It's a Mars and Leo pride thing. He makes sure he gets even with you, which is a really stupid thing to do, and it never works. I was telling somebody yesterday, if he just stopped making fun of people, people stop making fun of him. Duh. But he doesn't get that. Okay, but the point is, at this point in his life, when he's really broken into many, many pieces, let's take a look and see why. And this is going to pertain to all of us too, and I'll show you in a minute. So, keep in mind right now, Neptune is right here at 20 degrees, squaring his Uranus, his Sun, and his Moon. Born on an eclipse, Neptune squaring both his planets. That is the traditional time for tremendous scandals to become public And unless you have the best of efforts, he's going to try to snow the public under. The moon is the public. Neptune is deception. Neptune is also things such as a coronavirus. This is big time, serious stuff. Now, given that's all going on here, if he were to be of the certain ilk, he could have years ago started turning around, started seeing his spiritual lack, started opening his ears, listening to his preachers, and started to become a better human being. He had the capacity to do that while Neptune's lined up. But since he has not done it, and since he runs in front of the church and holds the Bible upside down, it's comical like he is. So while the background's going on with the president, and Neptune is squaring the sun and moon is going to go back and forth for several years, what's going on? Watch this. This is a big deal. We've talked about it before, but we get new viewers, and it cannot be overstressed. All right, I'm going to put two charts together. Hello, Linda. All right. This is the birth chart. It does not change. This is where the planets are right now. Now, the other planets have significance, but when you're talking about the big boys like Pluto and Saturn and Eris, you may as well forget about them. What we're looking at now is Pluto and Saturn and Eris. Where is his weak spot? 23, 24, 25 of cardinal signs. Anything in Cancer, anything in Capricorn is going to oppose it. Anything in Libra 24 is going to square it. Anything at 24 of Aries is going to square it. So those are the real pressure points. Now, I'm going to repeat this for you and hope you get this, because once you get it, it makes sense. It is, I was telling Liza tonight, it is unbelievable how you'll follow other astrologers for all these years, and they'll never talk about combinations of planets. They'll talk about, oh, out in the sky, isn't it pretty? There's Jupiter and Saturn tonight. If you look closely, you can see them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a planet comes around and it's about to hit you, and another one comes around and hits you at the same time. That's a big deal. That's how astrology works, and you never hear about it. So, for example, if I pull up a truck, these wonderful, brilliant geniuses that parked this truck in Lebanon with 2,500 tons of this chemical, my God, why did they park downtown? If I pull up next to your house with a truck full of explosives, and I park it next to your house, it's been there a month, what's this simmering cauldron that's simmering and waiting for something to trigger it? And if planets keep going by and don't trigger it, you might be lucky. Nobody starts up the truck and nothing happens. But that's not how the planets work, because the outer planets keep moving. So when you have like what Trump has, he's got the Venus Saturn here, and Pluto's opposite. So that sets up the era, the Pluto era that go on for years. That's what he's been going through the last couple, the next couple. Here's the Venus Saturn. It's all pivoting around this. Feel sorry for me, I'll show you. You don't like it? Well, I'll get rid of the Endangered Species Act. Yeah, you don't like it? Well, then I'll make these monuments mineable. So he's changing every law he can that Mr. Obama tried to put in place to help the environment, etc. So while Pluto and Saturn are sitting there, and Eris is up here at a right angle, he's got three major planets. This is so major, you don't even have to consider Saturn, which is unbelievable. He's got Pluto opposite that point and Eris at a right angle to it. Now watch, and you'll see why I put out that calendar that I did on Facebook. By the way, a lot of you listeners, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, I don't have the time to write newsletters like I once did. I will write them now and then, but it behooves you if you want to keep up with me on a daily routine. Just friend me on Facebook. I'd be glad to have you. Unless you're from the Philippines and you're trying to collect money to start a company cooking pigs. That's the one I got yesterday. Hi, Rick. How are you, Mr. Rick? I'm from Philippines. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Pennsylvania. What are you doing? I'm trying to start a business. You are? What kind? Oh, I think we have a hot idea to start grilling pigs en masse and selling them. Yum, yum, they're delicious. And I said to them, well, I bet you need some startup money, don't you? They said, yes, we call it partnership. Yes, I said, we call it unfriending. Goodbye. So that's when I get the friends from the Philippines and some such areas. Be careful of the ones from Africa too. So anyhow, let's go to the chart. I thought that was rather humorous. Okay, now I want you to look closely. This is a big deal. All right, this point right here is really sensitive. Where am I going to get my, okay, give me this, and give me that, and give me that, and give me a circle. All right, now we'll go like this. And now we're going to circle. There's the problem area. There's the vulnerable problem area. And when planets are here, it's no big deal. Planets here, no big deal. Planets here, no big deal. But when a planet is here, or opposite that point, or at a right angle to it, watch out. This is why he can't skip past this subject. This is why his niece comes out and thoroughly embarrasses him worldwide, talking about what a clown he was, even when he was young. I mean, his weak spot's getting hit. His weak spot would not be hit if he were trying to outgrow this problem. The fact that he's in denial about it's going to get worse. But if he went to a therapist and was working on this tender point and trying to become more loving inside and admit what he had done, etc., was working at it, the arrows coming at him would be minimal. That's how it works. Now, right now, look at Pluto, 23. Saturn, 23. Venus, 25. Look at Saturn. Saturn's at 27. It's already been, it's coming back again. It's going to go back and forth. Jupiter's going to go back and forth. This is so powerful. You can erase Saturn and erase Pluto and just look at Pluto. Okay? Pluto's right opposite that point. It's going to go back and forth for another 2 years, and then we're going to have the Pluto return for the whole United States. So, out of the blue, what does God decide to do but send us another nice little friend called Eris, 24 degrees. There's your story right there. Pluto is at a Eris is at a right angle to it. Pluto is at a right angle to it. And what just happened to your house is somebody just parked a big truck full of TNT on the left side, and somebody came on the right side and parked and put another kind of explosive device. Now they're on both sides of your house. It's just waiting for the trigger. And what is the trigger in astrology? What do I keep telling you to carve into your forehead? Carve into your forehead. Where is Mars? So in June, Mars was back here, and I saw it coming. And I saw it coming. It was retrograde, and it started forward. And I told you on June 10th, let's watch this chart. Let's go forward. We're on August 6th. Let's watch this Mars move. Why is it not moving? Because I put circles on it, that's why. Huh. It's frozen on me. Let's go back to it. All right. Okay, now 7th of August, 8th, 9th, 10th, Monday. Look at Monday. Mars is at 21, Eris is at 24. These are 23, 25. The midpoint's 24. Pluto's at 24. Do it with your eyes. So what matters here? The Venus, Saturn, the Pluto at 23. That's the era that's set up. What's on the air side of the house? Eris. These massive energies are lining up with that weak spot, and here comes the trigger. The sun is also a trigger. The moon is also a trigger, but nothing like Mars, because Mars just comes in and shakes things up. Look at Mars on Monday, the 10th, 21 degrees. Tuesday, August 11th, 22 degrees. Now it's a degree from Saturn. See it? A degree from Saturn. Mars always hits when it's 1 degree away. Always. It can also hit you when it's exact. But starting on the 11th, here's Mars triggering this central heart of the problem. It's going to trigger Pluto. It's at 23, 22. Pluto's at 23. This is at 23. It's all too tight. Let's go forward. 12th, 13th, 14th. And I warned about the 15th. The 15th, Mars is now a degree away from Eris. This is for everybody on the planet. Mars is a degree from Eris for everybody. So that's why I took it to the 16th, and Mars is going to finally start to pass. So what happens next week is Mars is going to go from Monday the 10th until the 16th. It's highlighted on the 15th. It's going to go over that point. It's going to trigger the Eris, which is square to the sun, and it's going to trigger the Pluto opposition to a Saturn Venus. Okay, now it can mean a lot of things. It can mean a lot of things happening. Okay. If this person were taking tremendous steps, things aren't right, I'm going to make things right by doing the right things, then miraculous stuff could start in his favor, for the country's favor. But it's not what he's doing, because he just reacts and shoots back. All right. Now let's talk about you and me. Now, we've all got transiting Pluto squaring Eris somewhere in our chart. 24 degrees Aries, 24 degrees Capricorn. We've all got that going on. Now, if you have a planet 24 cardinal, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, then you're under particular pressure from those two planets. And during next week, when Mars goes over and piggybacks on top of these, it's going to bring things to a climax. Why does Mars do it? The reason Mars does it is because Mars is like that old commercial. Where's the beef? She's at that Burger King. Where's the beef? Where's the beef? That's what Mars does. Mars is very unconscious. It wants what it wants. It wants it right now. It likes to stir up fights. It likes to agitate. Where's the beef? Let's go. So that's why you've got to be ready for next week. Now, I'm smart enough to know that almost all of us are going to get some kind of crap next week. We're just going to, some kind. And we hope it's minor. It just happens because it's too volatile. I can guarantee you next week we're going to be watching the news like this. Okay, like we're already aren't doing it right now. All right. Things are that explosive. So I decided last week I have to come up with a different way for you to look at this. And the problem is I don't know enough about Eris yet. Eris has only been known for 14 years. And that's a pittance in the astrological time, because we need time as eras go by. We learn and discern more about the nature of these planets, how they work. Okay, what is Eris about? And I want you to look around you, look inside you, look in your family, look in the news, look out on the streets, look at what's been going on around you for the last couple of years. Eris is about, if it ain't fair, I'm going to stop it, and I will do anything I have to do and make it fair. And if it's unjust, I will bring it to a stop. And I will use any means I have to make it just. That's what Eris is about. And she's much more violent than Pluto is. She doesn't want to use violence, but she will if she has to. But she will not put up with injustice. She will not put up with unfairness. And why do you think this Black Lives Matter is coming to such a peak? Why do you think this one black guy who got killed is sticking out compared to the 20 or 30 before him? The time is right. And you'll hear muggles say, boy, this is just different this time. I don't know what it is, but we're not going back down. And you got people in the streets like crazy with the virus. It would have been tenfold if the virus were not there. So Eris is here. We're feeling it. Astrologers are slowly putting it on their charts because it's a real pain in the butt to put another planet on your chart to get serious consideration because it changes everything and it makes everything more complex. So not only that, Eris has to come out with when she's exactly at a right angle to Pluto. She couldn't come out like this or like this. Boy, that was like a picnic. Okay, so what has happened is we are reaching further and further advanced states of our evolution. This is indicated by many symbols in astrology. We are being required to do more. And I told you all along, week after week, there's no more ponies. You can't go outside and get on your pony in the morning and give them a little grass. You got to get up on a stallion. There aren't any more ponies. The ponies have gone to Ireland, the Shetland Island or wherever, and now it's all stallions. Or get out and walk or drive a tank or something. And what that means is your actions now are just much more serious and meaningful now than they were 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, going up to the beach for a week. Not now. Not now. Things are too critical. We need to be acting. And when I'm doing my readings for people, people are telling me, I don't know what I got to do, but I got to do something more meaningful. That's what they're telling me. I know that. I see that. I've been watching it grow for years now. You're feeling the Eris come up through you. So what I'm saying is, because I have to be intelligent and I have to be patient, because I won't tell people what they want to hear. I tell them what I think I know. I don't know enough about Eris yet. I don't know her subtle moves. She's a tough one to figure out anyway. It's very hard to learn about the planets by studying mythology. It's much easier to learn about it by watching what did it do to this person? What did it do to that person? What did this person start thinking? These planets combine, your thoughts start changing. And you think it's you, and it ain't you. It's their archetypal expression. Now, what I thought was this. Since all the planets operate like this, if I incorporate the planet's energy, I'll be better off than if I fight it. That I know to be true with all the planets. If Mars comes by and I act assertively, it'll be better. If Venus comes by and I act lovingly, it'll be better. If Saturn comes by, hits me, if I act practically, it'll be better. So it came to me that while we're waiting to see the results of Eris on the collective, we had all better start taking a look at where Eris is inside of each of us. Because yes, we're being required as a collective to start digesting Eris and expressing Eris and going with the Eris that's within the collective. We'd all better start looking inside for what? Where have we been unfair? Where have we been unjust? Where have we been cowards to step up to those principles? That's it. And that includes how we've been unjust to ourselves. That's the theme for 2020, 2021. No more unjustness, no more unfairness. But no Mr. Magic which of the West is going to come solve this? We have to solve it. And you're not going to be able to get on board with the collective flow unless you start getting your own energy together yourself. So it's just it's a way of me sneaking up on this planet kind of sideways and giving you good solid advice. And when you look out in the world, you're going to see this kind of energy. Now, another thing I'm noticing here. In my opinion, we had this for supper tonight. What is the one word that's the problem right now? Planet-wide, especially country-wide. What's the one word that's the problem now? Blame. And this is the problem with Eris. Eris is very willing to put the blame on somebody, point the finger, stir up stuff, because it's got to change. It's just, she's that way. And that's the one thing that we're seeing in society that's really dangerous, and both parties are taking advantage, pointing at the other party. And you're just seeing everybody's itching for somebody to blame now. And we all know that ain't going to work. It just isn't going to work. You could start a healthy little fire, have some beers, and have a bunch of toasts. They ain't going to last very long. We're going to have to start seeing through it, talking people down off the tower with their M16. Because a lot of people are riding around with their M16. They just want somebody to shoot, but they don't know who. Maybe it's Iranians. Oh, maybe it's the Jews. Or maybe it's the Russians. Well, maybe it's the KKK. I don't know. They just want somebody to shoot. We all know how the media feeds on victims and blaming. So anyhow, we need to be super aware that this tendency is out there. And we got to be super aware that a lot of the people that are losing it now are losing it because of that. Because remember, what's the basis of Eris? The basis of Eris is who has been unjust? Show them to me. I'm going to change it. Who's been unfair? I'm going to change it. Well, we all know that those solutions have to come about in a sane way, with level heads, and not with throw Molotov cocktails at each other or whatever. You think this blast that happened in Beirut was a coincidence? It's just another. There are going to be many bigger ones. Okay, so what I'm saying is this is coming to our collective. It's going to get much amplified next week. By the time the 15th comes and Mars is 1 degree away from Eris, watch out, anything could go. But we can't fall prey to the blaming group. We can't fall prey to if only they would get it together. We've got to keep cooler heads and talk about what can we do together collectively to make things better. Also, you're going to see a lot of people going over the edge, which I've said a lot since 2008. A lot of people are going to go over the edge, and they're going to go over the edge because they didn't stay away from the edge. Or something karmically has shoved them over the edge, and I'm the wrong person to ask. I don't know why. So the key is, don't you go over the edge, okay? Because you have understanding, all right? And if you work in your heart for justness and fairness, it's all going to get better, and we have to be very clear voices. Next thing. All right, let's see. On my to-do list. Okay. We're going to shift to hello, Melody, California. Hi. Nice to see you. Peter, you ready? I'm going to unmute you. We're going to look at my friend Peter, who's in Nashville. He's going to sing us some country music. And we're going to take a look at his chart, the Aquarian that he is. Okay. Let me stop there for 1 second first. Before I go any further, do you have any questions about what I explained to you about the combination of Pluto with Eris and how it's getting triggered by Mars? Do you have any questions about how this individual chart relates to the collective? Don't be shy. If you have a question, raise your hand and ask me, and I'll try to answer it. Yes, Marcia Bud.
I do have a question about the two planets that are Trump's weak area. And how do you know that is his weak area? Is that because of the angle?
No, it's just from studying the entire chart. The entire chart is very fiery, and it's very tough, and it's very scheming, and it's the used car salesman. And in the middle of it, Venus Saturn is this little boy who's just afraid, and don't insult me. Be nice to me. Please don't mock me. That's what it represents. So you can see, by comparing all the other parts, you can see that that's the part, that's the wound that he just keeps putting scabs around and scabs around. He was able to do that for a long time. But now, when Pluto's in there, what do you think Pluto does to the scab?
Breaks it
It just
open.
rips it off. And the reason why, get this straight now, is not because he's a bad person. The reason why is not his bravado. The reason why is he's not doing anything to solve it. You see, what you would do if you had a very hypersensitive Saturn Venus in your chart, you would get with a therapist, you would talk with mom and dad, you would do what you could to get past these things that have been with you multiple lifetimes, and you would start to see, why have I been so sensitive? Why am I blocking people out? Saturn Venus says, no, you stay out there. I don't trust you. I'm not going to let you into my life. Stay out there. You're bad. And you would get with a doctor and work at it and try to break through it. But you don't see any sense at all of the positive with him. He's not working towards it. And that's why you amplify the negative. Because here's how Pluto works. Do what you got to do to evolve. If you're not, I get rid of you. When Pluto talks about getting rid of you, it's talking about annihilation, complete, burning the ashes. It just gets rid of you. So you either try, which is why I wrote that wonderful article years ago. If you try, Pluto will get behind you and help you. If you don't try, it gets rid of you. Because Pluto has no choice. It has to do one or the other. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll get on with it now. Now,
can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. When Mars is hitting 21 Eris, which is a trigger point for Cancer, it is also trining his moon. What does that do?
Well, the trine is making the trine is really important, but in this case, it's really minor, but it's actually important. What do you think is going to trigger the moon that has Neptune squaring it?
Okay, so it softens something?
Yes. In the case that Mars is trining the moon, which is undergoing the Neptune square, it's going to give him some good activity where people will see that he's meaning well, etc. But in the scheme of things, it's going to do nothing.
Okay.
Because the Pluto, Saturn, Eris squares to his Venus, Saturn are so meet your maker types energies. I mean, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like it, ever. Okay. 42 years, I've never seen anything like it. I sure wouldn't want to have Saturn and Venus at 24 of Capricorn. But the whole chart has to be brought into perspective. Let's go on. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Susan. Let's go on to Mr. Patient Peter. Okay. Now, Peter's got an unusual chart, as we all are. Peter is an Aquarian at the very last degree, which is called the anaretic degree. An anaretic degree is the final or the first degree of a sign. And you can see that Peter is born 5:33 in the afternoon. The sun has just set. The sun has just gone over the horizon. and he's a half a degree from being a Pisces. There is no cusp. He is an Aquarian. So the sun has been up all day. It just set and he was born. And as he was born, now, since it's getting darker, you could see in the sky Mercury, the moon, and Venus. You can't see Eris. You can't see Chiron. You can see these three. And Jupiter and Mars are rising. Okay? In the next half hour, Jupiter and Mars will rise, and the sun will set further and start getting darker. Okay. First of all, you have to, how do I say this? You guys are going to have to do some study. And if you want to really start to get pretty good at astrology, you're going to have to know the basics of the combination of planets, etc. What is a basic Aquarian male like? Number one thing, you will never get them to go to the hospital, ever. If their leg's falling off, they won't do it. Okay, 9 people with those things you do with a pull leg come along. You have to use 9 of those on their legs to get to the ER room. Aquarians men are very, very nice people. Usually the men and the women are both very, very nice. They're known for being extremely friendly, and I mean the real word friendly. They really care. You stop a discussion in 1990, you see them in 1999, and they pick up on the discussion where you left off. They remember your kids. They remember your dad. They're real friends. And in a lot of ways, I think they're right. In a lot of ways, Aquarians prefer friendships over marriage. And the marriages that you do see that succeed, the people are like friends more than married couple. That's because Aquarius is the sign of the individual, and they love to relate to people without clinging. And if you start to cling at all, they're gone. You don't do it. They're real hyper about somebody tying a rope around their leg. They're very consistent. They're very wonderful researchers, strong minds. They get deeply into stuff, and they're the sign of the environment. They can become fanatical. They're really into sci-fi, and the weirder stuff, the better. Okay, but they really get into it. He asked me today or yesterday what I knew about the Lionsgate that's opening up tomorrow. My answer, nothing. I looked up Lionsgate, and it's talking about an astrological principle that I don't hear astrologers talk about. And it's got to do with us lining up with a certain portal where the energy is coming from the Pleiades that's going to hit us with much stronger sunshine than our sun. It's going to be this wonderful thing happening to us spiritually. My answer is, I really don't know. And my other answer is, I've followed people talking like this for years, and I've learned to keep my mouth shut. I don't belittle it. I don't mock it. I just keep watching and listening. I don't think there's such a thing as a Lion's portal, but I've been wrong so many times, especially with the Mayan stuff. So keep watching. Maybe he can tell you what the Lionsgate's about. So anyhow, we now have the basis of an Aquarian. A couple of things. One of the things you got to have help out, as in all charts, as soon as you see the sun sign, you got to have help in certain areas. And that areas, especially with an Aquarian men are the hardest to find. You never see them. They never come to your office. They're always just out doing things. And they're very independent, like the women are, and very happy-go-lucky, and they're very content by themselves. So you got to find some warmth, because it's not a warm sign, and you got to find something in the chart to help them not be so stubborn, because the stubbornness gets them into trouble. Because Aquarius is all about, I listen to myself and I'm content, which means I don't listen to you. They're not cocky. It's not that they don't want to listen to you. It's just they're so damn confident in heeding their own advice. So these are things we know before we get into the chart. So we go in deeper into the chart. And we get a drink of water. Right away, we see something remarkable. The moon and Venus are in Aries, both indicators of independence. Independence, independence, independence. So we know right away from 3 major planets, 3 of the 5 personal planets, this is an independent dude. Independent, independent, independent. Now, I want to explain another thing that's been mislabeled. I'm born with the sun opposite Uranus, so I have a lot of Aquarius because of that. Aquarians have to do things their way. They just have to. Now, that's not greedy, and that's not selfish. And my girlfriend, when she's doing something and I come in and try to chip in from the side, she kind of sometimes just says, get out of the way, I'm going my way. And that's really true core Aquarius. She wants to do it her way. And it has nothing to do with excluding me. She's just into it. She's into the whole idea of it, and she wants to do it her way. Okay, fine. That's a lot different than some Aquarians can get real cocky, and they can become very disruptive, and they can become know-it-alls and hard-headed, and they can become really pretty unruly. Now, where's the Mercury? That's a nice sign for Mercury in the sign of Pisces. That gives them a softer mind. Instead of the intellect of Aquarius, this is a more of an intuitive mind, Mercury in Pisces. Where's the Venus? The Venus is in Eris, is very dynamic. But look at this dynamism. Moon, Venus, Eris, all in Aries, but it's in the 8th house. The 8th house is hard to understand. The 8th house is the house of the occult, digging deep into life's mysteries. So Peter's not afraid to dive in. Where's the cave? Let's go. Let's go. That's Eris. Let's go. Just dives right in. Remember, we're using a pencil. We're not going to say too much yet. Look in the 1st house. Look what's rising. Jupiter at 6, Mars at 8. The rising sign is at 048. First of all, if I were reading for him today, given a birth time of 5:33, I would not bank on the fact that that's true. Because if that birth time is about a minute earlier, he's got Leo rising and not Virgo rising. So I really don't know, and nobody knows if a clock is right within 1 or 2 minutes, except for me, because I got my watch in sync with a Colorado atomic clock when my son was born, before he's born. So, does he have the qualities of Virgo rising? Does he have the qualities of Leo rising? One thing with Leo rising, he would have a round face. With Virgo rising, he would have finer features, clearer complexion, smaller hands, small features. So, higher pitched voice. There are things that Leo rising is different than Virgo rising. I wouldn't try to set it right away. I would keep it in mind during the reading. Anybody that's close, you do not know, like 3 minutes earlier, he's got Leo rising. If that clock said 5:30, it said 5:33. So you don't know if somebody's rounding it off. So you'll keep that in mind. Next, with Virgo rising, the leader of the chart, the ruler of the chart, is the planet that rules Virgo. So Mercury in Pisces. Mercury rules Virgo, is the ruler of the chart. So we see an unusual bent with Peter towards spiritual ideas? Answer is yes. Or if Leo were rising, the sun would be the ruler of the chart in Aquarius. So this would not be easy to tell. It would not be easy to tell. So again, you just keep working with pencil. Jupiter rising in Virgo, Mars rising in Virgo. I'm going to see what he says to this. Peter, the best through the years, the best way I've been able to describe Jupiter, which is not an easy social planet to describe, the way I describe Jupiter is this. I pull up a van in front of your house, and the doors slide open, and all your friends are in there going, "Yay, let's go, get in." What do? Well, Marcia and I both have Jupiter and Eris. We just get in the damn van, and about 2 miles down the road, "Hey, where are we going?" That's Jupiter and Eris. And we're both Capricorns. With Jupiter and Virgo, no. Wait, I got to get my list. I got to get my camping list. I have my knife, double batteries. So we got the sleeping bag. Where are we going? Where's the sun going to be? What time do we stop to eat? But Virgos are ready. They're packed and they're ready. Everything makes sense. Peter, true or false? You're turned off.
Yeah, I think I definitely have the sort of Jupiter side of things. Yeah.
The Jupiter and Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And you would be the first one to deny it because everyone I've talked to said, yes, that's how they are. And when you're on that camping trip, a lot of people are going to be thanking Peter because he brought toilet paper, etc. You know, it's good. But what's weird about it, it's not Aquarian's nature. It's more Aquarian's nature because Aquarius is the wild child. You know, Aquarius is very much half of Thelma and Louise. Wee. Thelma and Louise is at one Sag and one Aquarian. Wee. That's what that was about. Okay, but he's honest about it, and that's good. But it does rub against him because his spirit is, I'm going, guys, count me in. But he's also, wait a minute, I got to get my list together, all my stuff. With Jupiter and Mars rising, Jupiter Mars is very famous for athletes. Okay, Jupiter Mars ruling your muscles, and Jupiter ruling your major muscle groups of your hips and thighs. Usually, I don't go for this. I ask people. I don't fall by default, Susan. I ask people, Jupiter, Mars, I ask you, are you pretty athletic?
Yeah, I would say that's a major theme.
Okay, he's saying it's a major theme, but I was ready for him to say it wasn't. Why? Because he's so Aquarian. And when you're very Aquarian, you're not really attached to your body. You're all up here. It's all mental. Okay? But Jupiter, Mars, but did you see how I delayed? I didn't say because Jupiter, Mars, he is athletic, I stopped and asked him. Because he very much could have been yes or no. Okay, so now we know he is. Jupiter, Mars is very much about, I don't really care where I go, I just want to go. The experience of running, the experience of going. That's very much a Jovian trait. People come to me, I'm a Sagittarius, I want to go travel, Rick. Where you want to go? I don't care, I just want to go. That's a Jupiter answer. So we know that he's got a happy-go-lucky, and when he's running, the endorphins really help him, and he gets real high on it. But one thing we need to take a look at, much more importantly than the Jupiter Mars, is the sun. Okay, why is the sun such a big deal? Because it's right on the angle. Even though it's set, it's only set, oh my God, it's only set within the last few minutes. It's only 1 degree away from the descendant. So the sun is very big. And when the sun is big, it makes his chart very solar. And the sun rules Leo. So now it's getting tricky because we don't know if Leo's rising or Virgo's rising. And now I don't even care because the sun's so big. So there's no way for me to really know. Is the sun really in charge? Or is just Mercury and Pisces in charge? I don't give it that much weight. If the argument's that close, I just keep them both important. So he's got a big sun. Now, here's where you have to start thinking. In the book, The Exquisite Zodiac, there's a chapter on the 6 polarities, and it really, really, really helps you to understand the 6 polarities when it comes to translating. The difference between Aries and Libra, between Taurus and Scorpio. Well, one of the polarities is Leo Aquarius. It's very important to understand the difference. Leo is, I'm on stage, the light is on me. Did you see the song I played? Aquarians don't like that. Aquarians is, hey, we were on stage. Did you see the number we choreographed together? So there you see. And that's why it's so important to learn these 6 polarities. So we know he's got the Aquarius, which is the pride in the group. We know he's got the sun, the pride in the self. We know he's got the moon and Mars, or whatever, like moon and Venus, in Eris, which is about the self. So Peter does not suffer from being too other-oriented. A lot of Aquarians do. They're so other-oriented, they don't have a clue what they're doing. Peter has a lot of observation, self-observation of what he's doing, because he's got the Aries planets, he's got the Leo influence on the 7th house. He's got the 2 Jupiter, Mars rising, but he's got a pretty nice balance, and I'll show you why. Here's the humbleness. Even though it's Jupiter and Mars, he's got humility coming from Virgo rising, Virgo Jupiter, Virgo Mars, Mercury and Pisces. This Chiron and Taurus is kind of neutral. So he's really got a balance. He's got a pretty nice balance. And you want to be balanced. You want to be self-oriented but not selfish. And you want to be other-oriented but not spaced out. What else do I see? Bingo. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. What's on the angles? What's on the angles? Jupiter, the Sun, Uranus. This one's slightly, because it's about 6 degrees. I usually give them 5 degrees. This is very powerful. This is 1 degree. Now, what do you think a person has in their background? Nadir is your background. That's where I'm going. Where am I from? Where am I going to? What's my background? Where am I headed? What do you think in his background Uranus and Scorpio is telling us? This is where the art of being an astrologer is. This is not easy. This is not easy. So I would start off by saying, I would not try to guess. And I remember reading for him the first time, must have been 5 years ago, I don't know, maybe longer. Did you have an unsettling nature to your family life? Oh yeah, Dad was in the Army. We had to move every 2 months. That's a common refrain from people that have Uranus down here. You see, let's talk about this. When you have this situation I just told you about, and Uranus is on the nadir, and I say, did your family move a lot? And they say, yeah, Dad was in the Army. We moved all the time. What I'm telling you is there's nothing you can do about it. The outer planets are the outer planets. And they have to keep you in sync with your karma and keep you in sync with the collective. And they do things that appear outside your reasoning. I don't know why Dad had to move all the time, but he did. Just like people who have Saturn on angles. And you have undue hardship. It's just always hard on your family. Was it? Yeah. And then my dad broke his back on a coal mine. Yeah. There are certain things that the planets just deliver to the natal chart. So the trick is this. When you look at Uranus on his nadir, it can mean many, many things. It can mean that someone in his family was more unsettling, the other person was stable. It can mean that he lived in a real exciting place, like he lived in a boat that was traveling the world. Uranus is always weird and unusual places. It's also got a lot to do with freedom. So what do you, I know you study your chart closely, Peter. What do you see with that Uranus in Scorpio at the bottom of your chart?
Well, I don't know, but I'm a little curious about something though. And looking at my father's chart, he has Mars within 5 degrees of the nadir, and then the moon right on his midheaven, and then my son has Pluto right on his nadir, which I just found interesting.
Oh, it's very common that in a family of a father and a son to have common aspects around the same pole. It's more common than it is not. But we have to go back to the question to you. All right. Was there something about your upbringing? And it's 1 degree away. So this is what happened in your first year. Well, you moved a lot where it was unsettling a lot. What it means astrologically is you try the nadir. What the nadir really is your emotional nest. It's your emotional nest from where you have your shoots come out, growth in life. But when you have a Uranus on the nadir, something's always upsetting it. Every time I build a house of cards, it falls down. I build a house of cards and put Elmer's glue on, it still falls down. What did you find anything to be truthful like that in your family?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, what is it about your family life, without getting real personal, what is it about your family life that is Uranian?
I'd say super liberal, Unitarian.
Okay.
Not a lot of pat answers to things.
Good. So they taught you to think?
Yeah.
Then they're just like Melody, who teaches her kids to think. And she should get lots of applause. And all of you out there teach your kids to think, lots of applause to you. Because when they think, then they're dangerous. What did I create here? Okay, now let me ask you this, because we're going to get blunt here. I believe Uranus is exalted. Is that right, Melody? Uranus is exalted in Scorpio? I think it is. Which would, yeah, because it'd be in its fall in Leo, where Leo's too selfish. Okay. What was it about, you said the family gave you freedom to think, no religious dogma. What was it that was scorpionic?
I don't know. I guess that's harder to pinpoint.
Well, it is harder to pinpoint. I'll give you a little hint. It would mean that you would be taught not just your free spirit, Mr. Peter, but that you also had some obligations. Because Scorpio is all about, you're not going to betray people. You're going to get behind them and fight for them. So even though there's no dogma, there's pressure in you, like you would get if you're talking to Catherine Hepburn. She was a real good example, even though she's shaking her head. She was a powerhouse, just looking right through you because she had such powerful Scorpio energy. You could just sense the dedication in this woman. She would fight anybody. So I think we see what's going on there. Okay, so far, we're pretty cool with this chart. So far, this chart's pretty cool. We're using a pencil. We're going to go around and around. And when it's this easy, I get real suspicious. So I start looking deeper. Okay, because I know Peter, and Peter is not your calm, natural next door neighbor. He's much more adventurous mentally. Well, take a look at this. Saturn in Virgo retrograde. Saturn in Virgo retrograde at 25, opposite very widely to Mercury, his ruling planet. So even though it's 8 degrees or whatever, his ruling planet's Mercury in Pisces, and Mercury in Pisces does not want to hear from Saturn in Virgo. We saw this last week. So we saw that Saturn in Virgo is the mental drill sergeant. the mental drill sergeant. Remember, the one thing that Aquarians, I didn't say this, the one thing that Aquarians are always doing is they're putting the big mental puzzle together. That's what they're always doing. Always. They're putting a new piece that doesn't fit that out. They're putting the pieces together mentally of how they see the universe mentally. Okay, fine. With the Mercury in Pisces, he's putting the big picture together intuitively. So what I see here happening is very simple. He's trying to favor the intuition, the heart part of Mercury and Pisces, but the Saturn and Virgo say, heck with that crap. What do you know for sure? Where's the facts? So he's got this fight going on between the spiritual side of him that just knows, it doesn't want to explain to anybody. And the Virgo is saying, well, fill it out in triplicate and have it on my desk at 8 o'clock in the morning. How do you know? Sir? How do you know, sir? So he's going back and forth between these two. And it's going to really be trying. And the answer to this is what, Peter? How do you deal with this? Thank God it's 8 degrees and not 1 degree. What is the best way to deal with this?
I don't know. Use both. Not try to have to reconcile them or realize who you're talking to.
All very good answers. Yes, use both. Well, I'm going to tell you the number one thing you got to do is you got to go, nah. You got to tell the Saturn and Virgo, you're not charging me. You know, I'll call you when I'm measuring my 2x4. I'll call you when I'm doing my taxes. But you're not in charge of me. You're not in charge of how my mind works. My mind wants to go float. And I'm going to let it float and just get out of the way. You got to be very firm with Saturn. Because Saturn's real sure of itself when it's in Virgo. Now that it's retrograde and it's symbolic, this is a strong symbol. When Saturn's retrograde, I think automatically of a distant father, Saturn being the father. But when it's symbolized heavily, then I know the father's distant. Doesn't mean they're cold, but the father's on the road. Were you unable to fuse with your dad?
I think there were some difficulties at times, but, you know, I think he has very strong Cancer energy, but then he's also like his 10th house. Most of his planets are in his 10th house. And then he's got that Mars right on the nadir. So I think there's that tension there. It's like sometimes you're Cancer, sometimes you're Mars, sometimes you're 10th
So he's
house.
kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
Did he force you to be the father?
No, I don't think that would be fair. I think that would be too far, but.
Okay, take a look at that. All right. But the point is usually, and you didn't get it too bad, usually the father's a salesman and you don't see him very often. The father's on the road all the time. It's not necessarily bad, but it usually means the father and you did not bond. Okay, so we know we've got a natural minor problem between the Saturn and Virgo and the Mercury and Pisces. And I think he's right. It's not a big deal. Like I said, put Saturn in this place, and you go to Saturn when you need it, because you will need it, because sometimes the last person you need to seek advice from is a Mercury in Pisces. Mercury's like, hey, I think they went that way, man. You know, sort of Cheech and Chong. Hey, they went that way. That's Mercury in Pisces. All right. So I think you got a pretty good idea there. But I think this comes from a past life where you had a belief, non-belief. I believe it, but I don't believe it. But I believe it, but I don't, which is very common. Okay, let's take a look at what else we got here. We got a Chiron and Taurus in the 9th house, which I think is very nice and very strong. And this indicates that his philosophy, I really like this, because whatever philosophy he comes up with, the Taurus wants to make it workable. It wants it to be solvable. It wants to be salient and plantable. And I like it. The Neptune is a big deal. And almost almost every person in my life, almost every person I've ever put together with my chart, I have a T-squared to Neptune. I'm talking about 9 out of 10 people. And I didn't do yours and me, but I'm sure it is. Here you are with a T-squared to Neptune. What does that mean? Here's what this means. We cannot evaluate this T-squared to Neptune unless we understand what this means. We already understand that this is a part of you. Hey, Peter, I sense something intuitively. Isn't that cool? Saturn. Oh, they're curious if it's cool. Where'd you get that from? Where'd you read that? Where's that carved in stone? And there's fight back and forth between these two. But you're lucky because the fight does not just ping pong. The fight has a release. And its release is at 22 Neptune, Sagittarius. So who wins out in the overall is the spiritual side. You got a Pisces, you got a Neptune versus one Virgo. So in other words, when that fight goes on between you about spirit versus down to earth, spirit versus down to earth, when it gets too much and you can't deal with it, you have a natural release to that Neptune. And what does Neptune say? Just let it be. It'll be all right. Just let it go. Now, what's really interesting is we finally have found out why we're having this reading. It just clicked. And I got a clicker up here that clicks when it's time to know what the reading's about. Click. And the reading is about Neptune squaring your Neptune. That's what's going on. So right now, Neptune is at 20 and a half of Pisces, and it's squaring, coming into square to Neptune. Okay. Now that's going to go on, be exact, in 6 months. It's going to go on for all of next year. And you know the Neptune has already gone over your Mercury. It's already gone over there. And I would naturally be a little defensive with Peter because my Mercury is a 1755 of Sag. So my Mercury and his Mercury are exactly square. So that means he and I would do a lot of arguing. Wouldn't be vicious, but I'd be pointing out the Sag part, he'd be pointing out the Neptune part, because our Mercuries are square. That's called synastry. But what we're seeing here, remember, Peter, you've got a teeter-totter. You've got a seesaw that keeps going back and forth, and in general, it points towards the Neptune throughout your life. And now, this Neptune is up here squaring itself. It takes 164 years to go all the way around. So that's 80 some years, halfway, 40 some years up here. So what's going to happen? Here's what I have learned. Neptune's been over your Mercury the last couple years, but it's hard to see Neptune when it's in Pisces, and the Mercury's in Pisces. It's hard to see it when it's happening. Usually it's easier to see once it's passed by a little bit. So what's going to happen, I think, is I really think you've been teeter-tottering a good bit between being, this is even strong enough to be taking a job, a career in spirit, a spiritual guide, an energy worker, versus something practical, Saturn. Going back and forth between the two. I could even see an argument going back and forth between the two. Well, during the next 2 years, Neptune's going to go over and square that Neptune, and it's going to be like 3 people on one seesaw, and 1 person on the other end. Does that make sense to you?
You're saying Neptune's going to really blow up.
It's going to tilt the scales. And I'll guarantee you, everybody listening, I'll guarantee you this is going on. We just don't know exactly how because we're using a pencil. Now, tell me how it's manifesting in your life.
I think for me, like, it's interesting the way you read the chart, because like I read the chart too as like Neptune has been problematic in my life.
Oh, Neptune can be very, very problematic. I didn't say it wasn't good. It's both.
Like I kind of feel with the Uranus and the Neptune, Sort of like you were talking about, you build the house of cards and then it falls down.
That's the Uranus.
I feel like I would appreciate more of that Taurus energy or Earth energy.
Well, I can understand that. Thank God you got Saturn in Virgo and you got Chiron in Taurus. But what's happening here? Here's the story. This is very difficult. The problem with having such a heavy emphasis on Neptune is that, yes, on one hand, when you've had trouble, you've been able to escape it. That's pretty good. That's better than trouble. The trouble comes in when you escape inappropriately, or you escape much more than what's needed, or you escape when, in fact, the Saturn is being correct. Sometimes Saturn says, yeah, you got to go downtown and sign that paper. Yes. Sometimes it is right. And if you're out on the beach fly fishing, woo, it's going to be hard to get you downtown. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I feel like we live in probably one of the most materialist or earth-oriented cultures in history, and so.
Well, that's true too, but we're sticking to your chart. We're going to
but it grates on the chalkboard a little bit.
We're going to deal with you in Nashville.
Yeah.
You in Nashville. Here's the point. The reading is taking place now because your Neptune, just like last week, your Neptune is ready to talk to you. Just like Nate and Tim last week, and Neptune was ready to overwhelm his Mercury and start giving him more confidence in his Neptune part and less in his Leo part. What's happening in your chart is the thing that all Aquarians eventually have to face. And if you read the Exquisite Zodiac, it's all about the change that takes place between first and second sign, second, third sign, etc., etc., etc. And the first 11 signs are all about the ego strengthening, getting stronger as a self, until the final gap between Aquarius and Pisces. And here's the problem, Mr. Peter. It's really not a problem. It just looks like one. Up until now, I don't care if you're where your Mercury's been, you have put all your marbles into how strong your mind is. That's what Aquarians do. Almost all of them. And now you're going to see them just go. You're going to see not that they're valueless, but that they're valueless. Follow that statement. You're not going to see all your mental accomplishments as if they're valueless, but you're going to finally realize they have no value. They hold nothing for you. There's nothing the mind can do for you except tell you the difference between this and that. And that's not what we're interested in ultimately. Because you can just spend the rest of your life with a fine knife, just dividing everything up in pieces. And you'll have a sail like the president has and wonder why the wind won't blow his boat. Whew. In other words, you got to give up the mentality and surrender to the emotion. And that's what's coming your way. And that's why it's being pre-announced to you now. This is what's underway. You've already had Neptune over Mercury that set the conditions for this in the last 2 years. And now you're going to start becoming convinced because your Neptune is going to go through the chart and it's going to bolster the natal Neptune that you already have because it's squaring itself. So when it does, you're going to start saying to your Aquarian Mercury, you know, I appreciate all these wonderful thoughts and systems and ideas, and they're fine, but I want them secondary. They're not useless, as I said. They're secondary. When I need to learn the difference between a green light and a red light, I'll know. When I need to learn the difference between Trotsky and Marx, I'll know. But when it comes down to it, your soul, when it comes down to it, all of us have our souls being pulled on from heaven. I don't know how else to put it. It's like this big hand is reaching down, pulling us towards the heavens. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying, Peter?
I mean, I guess so, but I mean, I get quite frustrated with Neptune because
All
I
right,
feel
well,
like, you know,
let's talk about Neptune. Go ahead.
I mean, I feel like Neptune's all well and good, but then you wake up the next day or the next month or whatever, and then it's back to practicality, and you know.
That's a misunderstanding. Why is Neptune deceptive like you're describing?
I don't know. I just don't feel like it leads anywhere.
The point is it leads everywhere, but everywhere is nowhere. The point is there is nowhere. The point is there's only one place. There is no place to go from here to there. There's only one place. And
Well,
the only reason
my Mars isn't going to hear that, Rick.
what?
My Mars isn't going to hear that. It needs the sense that it's going somewhere.
Oh, you just got to kid your Mars and give him a piece of cake and ice cream and tell him to have a little party as the Aries he is. Aries is a balloon with no air in it. You know. Just let it have fun doing what it's doing. It's purposeless. What the chart is showing, this is not a happenstance. This is a big event in your life, or this would not be happening. This is a pre-announcement of what's coming your way. And it's obvious to me that what's coming your way is a correction about the knowledge of Neptune. Okay, you said to me, and this is important, that's why I'm harping on it. You said, Neptune comes to me, and all was good for a while, and all of a sudden it's back to the world. Explain an example of that to me.
I feel like I you know, particularly in my 20s or when I spent considerable time, you know, in front of various gurus or whatnot, and
Right.
Eastern teachings and everything, and
Right.
you know, this emphasis on giving up the world and everything, and then.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, what's important to me is to, you know, I do want to perform my roles in society and et cetera, you know. I don't agree with a lot of that thinking. I want to have a strong enough ego. I don't want to have an ego death. You know, I don't think that's healthy.
Well, this is a very difficult subject because you're down amongst the brass tacks now. You're right there where it is. Okay. Do you want to have an ego that's strong enough that it's the only barrier between you and experiencing God? What if I told you tomorrow you get up and we're ready to give you the God experience, but if you are insisting on having that, on keeping Peter alive, that's going to be the one thing that you're going to see, and you're not going to be able to see the God that's waiting on your side. What would you say?
I would say as long as it doesn't negatively impact my role in society.
Yeah,
Or
but
in
what
in
is
the
your
words of my crusty
what
Pennsylvania
is your
Dutch
role in
grandfather.
society?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, sometimes the Neptune folks, I mean, you know, are too impractical.
Well, agreed. There's no doubt about it. But the reason that they're impractical is they haven't let go. There's only one reason that a Neptune person succeeds. And there are a million reasons they don't. And the reason that they fail is they want to take themselves with it. I want to take me with it while I succeed. Hey, God, I'm going to come visit you, and I'll be Rick, and I'll talk to you. Then I get to run back tell my friends about it. That's all illusory. So that's what this is about. And how I talk to you about the faith and the non-faith, the faith and the non-faith. You've been fighting this fight for a long time. This is in the 12th harmonic. This is in the past life. Because ultimately, no matter what you battle for, you either battle for separation or inclusion. I'm not saying I'm there. I'm just telling what the planets say. You either battle for going home and merging with the oneness with all of us, or staying separate, which equals suffering. Let's go to your 12th harmonic and see what we find. You have very good points. I knew you'd thought things through very seriously because I get all these very serious questions from you frequently. Okay, let's take it to past life now. The 12th harmonic, the spiritual transcript, we got Venus and Leo, opposite Uranus and Saturn. No big deal. We got a T-square to Eris. We got a Jupiter, Venus, a Jupiter moon in Gemini, and it's opposite Pluto. And this wants to play, and this does not want to play. And this is very dedicated. Ninth house. This is a very dedicated ashram type person. Very dedicated to people. Saturn, Uranus, and Aquarius, Neptune, Pluto in the ninth house, Capricorn, midheaven. This is very, very advanced. The sun in the 12th house, opposite Eris, in Pisces, very advanced. But these two planets want to play. These two want to play. They want to play. So does Mars. What does that mean? It means a good bit of your chart wants to play. What does play mean? Play doesn't mean play. Play means enjoying my separateness, enjoying the illusion that I'm separate. And it's an illusion. And no matter what you do, it will always be an illusion because it's not real. I told you his Mercury and my Mercury is square. Okay? See? I got a friend in Pittsburgh, very good artist. And she's really, really, really into searching for God and all this and all this and all this. But no matter what she says, she wants to take herself with it. She wants to be a good artist while she's there. She wants to be a good artist while she's there. But it ain't possible. Because there is no her. You can't have a Peter and a God when there's only God. Now, I'm not going to get into an existential argument. All I'm going to say is that I understand, I appreciate everything you're saying. All I can say to you is during the next couple of years, your Neptune part will get louder. And as it gets louder, you're going to understand it more. And all I'm saying to you is be open-minded about the Neptune, because you got to be very careful. Neptune will lead you into the deserts of the Gobi Desert, just leave you there, and it will also save you. You have to use huge discernment to work with it. And you got Saturn and Virgo, which is very good. But this is no happenstance that you're under a major Neptune time. And what it boils down to, what I heard from you saying, is that you can go with Neptune part of the way, but you don't ultimately trust it.
I mean, I guess union isn't, union used to be the goal for me, but I don't, I see that separation just as holy as union at this point in my life.
Okay, well, that's fine. If you can reason how separation is just as holy as oneness, then that's where you are. And that's very honest. And Neptune is going to work with you to convince you otherwise. Okay?
Okay.
The reason sex is wonderful and orgasms are wonderful is that's a moment of oneness. Even though it blows away rather quickly. That's why it's the moment of oneness. It's not the enjoyable because, hey, we're still separate. Give it some thought. We've been through a lot of hard, deep stuff, very good stuff. Peter, I like your chart. It's got a lot of healthy dynamics. There's really not much, there's not much difficulty in it. The only thing I'm seeing is in the past life, there was this insistence that's what I got from the past life. There was this insistence that if I go and surrender to God, I'm not going to be able to play. And I think that's an illusion, because I believe that if you merge with God, you can play and do 10 times the tricks you ever did before. I'm not going to favor one side or the other. That's not my position. But thank you for being on the table tonight. Any questions about his chart? Anybody? We'll say goodbye to our YouTubers. Thank you for joining us. Astrology Unplugged, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock. Thanks for joining us.